3.2 Lesson Objectives. Describe the structure and function of the plasma membrane. Identify the roles of the cytoplasm and cytoskeleton. Outline the form and function of the nucleus and other organelles. List special structures of plant cells, and state what they do. Explain how cells are organized in living things. Vocabulary: ADP, cell wall, central vacuole, chloroplast, cytoskeleton, endoplasmic reticulum, endosymbiotic theory, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, phospholipid bilayer, vacuole, vesicle. Introduction. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, but all of them perform the same basic life functions. They all obtain and use energy, respond to the environment, and reproduce. How do your cells carry out these basic functions and keep themselves and you alive? To answer these questions, you need to know more about the structures that make up cells. Overview of cell structures. In some ways, a cell resembles a plastic bag full of jello. Its basic structure is a plasma membrane filled with cytoplasm. Like jello containing mixed fruit, the cytoplasm of the cell also contains various structures, such as a nucleus and other organelles. The figure below shows the structures inside a typical eukaryotic cell, in this case the cell of an animal. Refer to the figure as you read about the structures below. You can also explore the structures of an interactive animal cell at this link, Interactive Animal Cell. The plasma membrane. The plasma membrane forms a barrier between the cytoplasm inside the cell and the environment outside the cell. It protects and supports the cell and also controls everything that enters and leaves the cell. It allows only certain substances to pass through, while keeping others in or out. The ability to allow only certain molecules in or out of the cell is referred to as selective permeability or semi-permeability. The plasma membrane is discussed in this video, Plasma Membrane Video 616. The cell wall is also discussed in this video. The phospholipid bilayer. The plasma membrane is composed mainly of phospholipids, which consist of fatty acids and alcohol. The phospholipids in the plasma membrane are arranged in two layers, called a phospholipid bilayer. Each phospholipid molecule has a head and two tails. The head loves water, hydrophilic, and the tails hate water, hydrophobic. The water-hating tails are on the interior of the membrane, whereas the water-loving heads point outwards, toward either the cytoplasm or the fluid that surrounds the cell. Molecules that are hydrophobic can easily pass through the plasma membrane, if they are small enough, because they are water-hating like the interior of the membrane. Molecules that are hydrophilic, on the other hand, cannot pass through the plasma membrane, at least not without help, because they are water-loving like the exterior of the membrane. Other molecules in the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane also contains other molecules, primarily other lipids and proteins. Molecules of cholesterol help the plasma membrane keep its shape. Many of the proteins in the plasma membrane assist other substances in crossing the membrane. Extensions of the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane may have extensions, such as whip-like flagella or brush-like cilia. In single-celled organisms, the membrane extensions may help the organisms move. In multicellular organisms, the extensions have other functions. For example, the cilia on human lung cells sweep foreign particles and mucus toward the mouth and nose. Cytoplasm and cytoskeleton. The cytoplasm consists of everything inside the plasma membrane of the cell. It includes the watery, gel-like material called cytosol, as well as various structures. The water in the cytoplasm makes up about 2/3 of the cell's weight and gives the cell many of its properties. Functions of the cytoplasm. Suspending cell organelles. Pushing against the plasma membrane to help the cell keep its shape. Providing a site for many of the biochemical reactions of the cell. Cytoskeleton. Crisscrossing the cytoplasm is a structure called the cytoskeleton, which consists of thread-like filaments and tubules. The cytoskeleton helps the cell maintain its shape and also holds cell organelles in place within the cytoplasm. The cytoskeleton is discussed in the following video, Cytoskeleton Video 450. The nucleus and other organelles. Eukaryotic cells contain a nucleus and several other types of organelles. These structures are involved in many vital cell functions. The nucleus. The nucleus is the largest organelle in a eukaryotic cell and is often considered to be the cell's control center. This is because the nucleus controls which proteins the cell makes. The nucleus contains most of the cell's DNA, which makes up chromosomes and is encoded with genetic instructions for making proteins. Mitochondria. The mitochondrion, plural, mitochondria, is an organelle that makes energy available to the cell. This is why mitochondria are sometimes referred to as the power plants of the cell. They use energy from organic compounds such as glucose to make molecules of ADP, adenosine triphosphate, an energy-carrying molecule that is used almost universally inside cells for energy. Scientists think that mitochondria were once free-living organisms because they contain their own DNA. They theorize that ancient prokaryotes infected, or were engulfed by, larger prokaryotic cells, and the two organisms evolved a symbiotic relationship that benefited both of them. This theory is called the endosymbiotic theory. Endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum, ER, is an organelle that helps make and transport proteins and lipids. There are two types, rough endoplasmic reticulum, rare, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, SEER. Rare looks rough because it is studded with ribosomes, which make proteins. SEER looks smooth because it does not have ribosomes and also makes lipids, stores substances, and plays other roles. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are small organelles where proteins are made. They contain the nucleic acid RNA, which assembles and joins amino acids to make proteins. Ribosomes can be found alone or in groups within the cytoplasm as well as on the rare Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus processes proteins and prepares them for use both inside and outside the cell. It is somewhat like a post office, receiving items, proteins from the ER, packaging and labeling them, and then sending them on to their destinations. Vesicles and vacuoles. Both vesicles and vacuoles are sac-like organelles that store and transport materials in the cell. Vesicles are much smaller than vacuoles and have a variety of functions. Vesicles store and transport protein and lipid molecules. Centrioles. Centrioles are organelles involved in cell division. They help organize the chromosomes before cell division so that each daughter cell has the correct number of chromosomes after the cell divides. Special structures in plant cells. Plant cells have several structures that are not found in animal cells, including a cell wall, a large central vacuole, and organelles called plastids. Cell wall. The cell wall is a rigid layer that surrounds the plasma membrane of a plant cell. It supports and protects the cell. Central vacuole. Most mature plant cells have a large central vacuole that can make up as much as 90% of the cell's volume, storing substances such as water, enzymes, and salts. Plastids. Plastids are organelles in plant cells that carry out different functions. The main types include chloroplasts, contain chlorophyll and capture light energy to make food. Chromoplasts, make and store pigments. Leucoplasts, store substances such as starch. Organization of cells. Cells can exist as individual cells or as groups of cells. Cells in groups can be organized at several levels. From one cell to many. The simplest level of cell organization is a single-celled organism, and the most complex level is a multicellular organism. In between these levels are biofilms and colonies. Levels of organization in multicellular organisms. Scientists think that multicellular organisms evolved when many single-celled organisms of the same species started to work together. The oldest known multicellular organisms are algae that lived 1.2 billion years ago. Lesson summary. The plasma membrane is a phospholipid bilayer that supports and protects a cell and controls what enters and leaves it. The cytoplasm consists of everything inside the plasma membrane, including watery cytosol and organelles. The nucleus contains most of the cell's DNA. Other organelles include mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, and Golgi apparatus. Plant cells have special structures not found in animal cells, including a cell wall, a large central vacuole, and plastids. Cells can exist independently or in groups as multicellular organisms, organized at levels of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. Lesson